Welcome to the Landcare in Action stream of the National Landcare Virtual Conference for 2021. My name is Andrew Scott, Bush Care Officer for North Sydney Council. This session is the impact of a garden. Our guest speaker will be Vicky Horseman from Fitzroy Basin Association. Just before I introduce Vicky to speak, if you have any questions during the presentation, can you start asking them immediately, as there'll be a limited amount of time at the end of the presentation to answer them. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vicky Horseman, and please start your presentation now, Vicky.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So good afternoon. My name is Vicky Horseman and I'm the Regional Agricultural Land Care Facilitator for the Fitzroy Basin. And I'm going to tell you a story about the impact of a garden. FBA acknowledges and respects the First Nations people across the Fitzroy region. Aboriginal people have cared for land and sea country for tens of thousands of years. From a natural management perspective, Aboriginal people across the world have demonstrated that sustainability is possible. The Fitzroy region is one of the most variable climates in the world. Floods, fires, and drought present constant challenges for land, water, and vegetation management. The Fitzroy region is over 156,000 square kilometres, making it twice the size of Tasmania, and it's a pretty big area for one land care facilitator to cover. We've got more than 20,000 kilometres of waterways, and the Fitzroy is the largest river system which flows into the Great Barrier Reef. Upstream, 79% of our region is under agricultural production, and it's predominantly grazing, making it the largest cattle producing region in the country. Our catchment also provides home to over 5,000 native species and over 200 rare and threatened species. And you can see some of the stats here on the map. We work closely with local people to deliver solutions for a healthy environment and a better regional future. We're proud to be one of Queensland's leading natural resource management organisations, and we work tirelessly to bridge the gap between knowledge and action, bringing projects that combine environmental awareness and community involvement to life. Hence why I'm here today to share with you the Woorabinda State School Permaculture Gardens story. The township of Woorabinda is a small Indigenous community 170 kilometres west of Rockhampton in Queensland, and is a home to about 1,300 residents representing up to 52 mixed clans, primarily Wadja and Gungaloo tribes. I spent a couple of years working with the Woorabinda Pastoral Company, running workshops and delivering training for staff and junior rangers, before I was introduced by chance to the head of curriculum at Woorabinda State School, Michelle Hall, by the Woorabinda Pastoral Company's program manager. Michelle would then be the main contact throughout the duration of this project. When I started, I had no idea what the scope of this project would be. It certainly had its ups and downs, but it's been an amazing experience. During today's presentation, I'd like to walk you through the lifeline or the heartbeat of the project and the garden. Michelle was a part of the language program team working with the school curriculum, supported by a community leader and Gungaloo elder, Uncle Steve Kemp. Steve is one of the key players in this project, who, as Michelle says, he plays plants like someone who plays football, sourcing and working with medicines from the country. And also one of the most integral players in this project is Uncle Milton Lawton, another Gungaloo elder, who works closely with the school and the community. So I turned up not long after a discussion took place on creating a substantial school garden to teach the students and the community how to grow food, eat healthy, and become self-sufficient, and to complement the school language program. It was clear that Michelle, Uncle Steve, and Uncle Milton worked hard to ensure that there was an alignment between traditional ecological knowledge and the Australian school curriculum. They connected it through the Indigenous knowledge system by the names of plants and animals, and it was to be delivered from preps to Year 6 students. The location of the school garden was to be in the lower part of the school grounds, obviously in an area where they had some space and close to water, which at this time was just a set of long hoses connected to one tap beside the tuck shop area. Our climate is variable and the rainfall's been low and we've been in drought for many years. So it was essential that in the long term, we set up a somewhat reliable and automatic source of irrigation. Woorabinda State School applied for funding through RSEQ and the Junior Landcare program. Because they were successful, they installed some garden beds, planted some lettuce and some fruit trees, which consisted of oranges, mandarins, and some lemons. As Michelle indicated in one conversation, the students asked to have fruit to pick whenever they wanted and to grow some food to have in a burger and to be able to make their favoured egg and lettuce sandwiches in the school cafeteria. So at the end of 2019, they had their first egg and lettuce sandwiches with lettuce from their garden. We're a resourceful bunch of creatures, and one weekend, Michelle and the staff built a greenhouse out of star pickets, polypipe, and a bit of shade cloth. And this was to be the humble beginning of the Woorabinda State School garden. It's actually really amazing what we can do with so little. So here's some photos I'll share with you. Up in the corner, right up here, is where we had our compost pile at the end of when we set the garden up. And as you can see, these are some of the wonderful students from the school planting their initial fruit trees, the mandarins, oranges, and the lemons. And this is our greenhouse. So yes, our first bit of infrastructure. As a Landcare facilitator, I can work to find funds and support projects that have not only in relation to sustainable ag, but also community. I was keen to pursue the relationship with Woorabinda State School. So early on, I went 50-50 in a tank for them as soon as I could find the funds. As I could see a lot of benefit for the Woorabinda community if we could progress with this garden and source the appropriate infrastructure. So now we have a greenhouse, a tank not delivered, some fruit trees and some garden beds, but we were on our way. So COVID hit, and this was a hard time for all of us, mentally and physically. The Woorabinda community closed to the rest of the region, and then there was a freak storm and we lost our much loved greenhouse. Things did look a little grim for a while. However, I maintained the relationship and spoke with Michelle regularly for 8 weeks, and we hatched a plan to salvage what we could and take the garden project to the next step. As FBA has funding through the Regional Lands Partnership Program, which assists community groups and individuals to undertake projects that have a public benefit, I felt this was a really great opportunity to source a much needed injection of funds. So with some definitive plans and quotes, Michelle and the school submitted the application. Once the community of Woorabinda opened, we were able to get back on track. The Woorabinda State School's community grants application with us was successful, and as an added bonus, the school was also successful in getting funding from Omni Executive for a solar pump for the tank. Our community grants application covered the setup of a permaculture garden and a capacity building event with a permaculture expert, Ross O'Reilly, who owns and operates High Valley Dawn at Yeppoon. One weekend, some staff and students from Woorabinda State School visited the farm and saw what was potentially possible at their school. As a part of the funding, Ross and his team from High Valley Dawn were also going to set our garden up and provide some advice on what was suitable to grow in such variable conditions. What a win. We had all the ingredients, trees, mulch, compost, seedlings, and a group of passionate people who were committed to get this going. So on the 15th and the 16th of May, 2021, we finally had our working bee to set this garden up. As you can see, it was an amazing time with over 50 participants from the community, staff at the school, High Valley Dawn, and FBA. Here's our tank and some of the wonderful students. You can see the beautiful colour of the soil. It is quite dry. We use tractors and ploughs to try and dig up some of the country because it was quite hard. This is what's left of our greenhouse. As you can see, it's just a bit of polypipe and some of the beds. But We'll change that soon. I wish I could play a video for you though, so you could hear the joy and the laughter from the students, the joy of togetherness, connection, and a mutual goal. It was a beautiful couple of days. So the garden's growing and serving a purpose in the community, even at this early stage. Unfortunately though, there was another timeline dip ahead of us. And like all community-based programs, things change, people come and go, and that's what happened here. Our main driver, Michelle, has left the region, and so we're left with a functioning garden and still a small group of committed people to try and maintain the garden and keep that dream alive. If we were to go back to slide 7, this is the last dip in that lifeline or the heartbeat. I did pop out a few weeks ago and I was pleased to see that the garden is on track. We've had a little bit of frost, but things are looking up and the passion is still there with Uncle Milton and the staff. I know things will change. I can't see the future, but I'll be there to keep the Ralph support going, as this is an investment in everybody's future. So what have I learned from this experience? Wow, the project was 5 years in the making before it was funded. However, Woorabinda State School kept that vision alive. And sometimes achieving sustainable community infrastructure requires respecting the shelving of long-term aspiration until the timing, resourcing, and importantly, the leadership is available to take the steps towards this aspiration. I listened on the day that Woorabinda Pastoral Company took him to that unscheduled visit to meet Michelle. We discussed their aspirations and took a walk, and look what happened. I found that integrating in any new community or visiting a new landholder requires building trust through relationships. I achieved this through scheduled and unscheduled visits, checking in with community service providers around the town, and listening to the diverse needs of different community groups. As I was an outsider, it was easy to see and make connections for when the timing and the resourcing aligns, which then empowers a community to have a go. The Regional Agricultural Landcare Facilitator has an important role in any project of sourcing in-kind support from collaborators and partners who have the patience to share their knowledge with the community, and then most importantly, foster those connections, as they're so valuable. As we all know, collaboration makes our aspirations easier, and we all take something away from a project like this one. So the investment is worth it. It does not take a lot of time to drop a line or a text or make a call to your existing project partners, or even your future collaborators and partners who have the potential to make a difference in any project. It's important to respect community and cultural timeframes, such as sorry business, important calendar dates and events, and the general business of extended kinship obligations and responsibilities. A few times I wanted to head out to Woorabinda because I was keen to see what was happening and I was so excited. But Michelle and Uncle Milton informed me that it wasn't a good time. So really make sure you go with the flow when you're working in a community, not against it. Please also remember that any activities can't progress without elder endorsement of a project, otherwise you'll have no community buy-in. And lastly, and most importantly, COVID-19 taught a lot of us to become flexible and adapt. Some of our planning meetings were over Zoom or Teams, and it's what a great way to keep in touch. Look at us now. We're having a national conference online. People can be sensitive to voices or inflection when talking over the phone, and this online way is so valuable to ensure that we're actually able to accurately interpret what the conversation's about. Also, it's great for the environment. And I personally feel that this is a new form for all of us when we're in project management. So where to from here? I was going to head out to Woorabinda next week to talk to everybody, but it's gone into lockdown, the community. So the face-to-face opportunity will have to wait. I really need to catch up with the principal and let her know that we as FBA are there to help. Assure Uncle Milton and Uncle Steve that as far as I'm concerned, this is a long-term project, and despite the challenges, I will ensure FBA provides all the support they may need to keep this amazing project going. I would love to source some funding for the defunct greenhouse, as Uncle Milton and Michelle and I were trying really hard to raise funds prior to her leaving. And as it's coming into summer, we're going to need it sooner rather than later. So watch this space. So in closing, I'm grateful to have been a part of this journey, and I look forward to the next phase of Woorabinda State School's Permaculture's Garden. I know I've certainly learned a lot from this project, because now I've been asked to help another school take this path as well. It's really exciting times ahead. So thank you for taking the time listening to this story from our Fitzroy region. Cheers.
That was great, Vicky. Thanks a lot for sharing and closing that presentation. Will allow us now to move on to the question and answer part of the session. And I have a few questions that you might be interested to answer. The one we've got one for 4 votes here from posed by Dot Mola. Did discussion about bush, was there any discussion about bush foods?
Yeah, there was, Dot. So basically a part of that final planting at the working bee, Dot, we put a lot of bush foods in. I guess I didn't really put it in the presentation, but we are looking at trying to find some funding to do some signage as well, so we can have that cross-cultural, education for everybody, so we can, learn about bush tucker and help the connection with the community. So yes, the elders, Uncle Steve and Uncle Milton, are in the process of working that out and putting more bush tucker food in the gardens.
That's great. The second question here, anonymous contributor, would the students like to try setting up a similar small areas, one with a biochar and one without, and see how they compare? Also, one area with compost and one with compost and biochar.
Yeah, certainly. Through part of the process on the second day, we did look at exploring and putting different sections of the garden with different treatments and so on. I know that we actually set it up with some biodynamics as well. So, but yeah, we haven't gone down that track and looking right into that yet with the biochar, but we certainly will. We've just got to try and get it set up properly. And I guess, once we get the funds and get everything rolling, we'll start to explore more options to integrate some more of that soil science into their curriculum.
Thanks, Vicky. We've got a question from Simon Rowe, and kind of leads off from the last presentation. Great to see Ralph's in action, working across the various complexities. Do you envisage the garden a tool during COVID for mental release?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in mental well-being across our catchment, and I think this will actually give the children something to focus on. Going into lockdown, a community or any community, anybody, it's hard. So I think this will give them something to go outside and focus on, and even on the weekends, they can put a little bit of time into if they want to. So I'm a bit jealous that I'm not there and I don't have the garden in my own backyard. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to have something alternatively to focus on for their mental well-being. So yeah.
Great. A second question from Dot. Dot's very lucky. Did you get eggs from other people's chickens? I understand that permaculture includes chooks.
Yes, no, haven't got that far with the chooks yet. We had discussed that the chooks would be bilted out over the weekends and at night. So we're looking at doing that. We've just got to make sure that the animals will be safe and kept in a good pen. So we'll work towards that. No, the egg and lettuce sandwiches, the eggs were not homegrown at that point. So, but we'll work towards that, Dot. We'll let you know. Maybe you should send your details through so I can keep you a bit updated with what's happening.
You can do that in the comment box if you like, Dot, and I'll record it and forward it on to Vicky if you do that now. The last question, I've got a lot of other comments, but the last question from Christine Robinson is, where does FBA get its funding?
So FBA is a regional body. We're a natural resource management group. We're located in Rockhampton in Queensland, and our funding is both Queensland government funding and Australian government funding.
That's great. I think I've just got a little bit of time, so I just want to read out some comments for your benefit. And inspiring story of community participation from Malcolm Wells. Susan says, what a great project. Well done to the community and yourself, Vicky. Christine Robinson, again, looks amazing. Sulman Ismail, I hope I got that right. What a great community. Annie C, wonderful presentation. Marie, thanks, Vicky, a great presentation.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks a lot, Vicky, for sharing your experience and your work and sharing a bit of what's happening up there in Queensland with us. It's a nice break from reality down here in lockdown, and yeah, that brings us to the close of today's presentation for the Landcare in Action stream.
Cool.
I'll see you online, I guess, Vicky.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew. Take care. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, Vicky. So to the audience, please join us again tomorrow for the Landcare in Action stream. I hope you enjoyed the last presentation of the day.